If you've been following along with Little Crab Educational Press, then you've probably seen a lot of my face and a lot of my sister's face, but you haven't seen a lot of Zhang Xianjing. Yay! Zhang Xianjing is my 好朋友, and we are co-authors of the Veggie book. And so I would be remiss if I did not introduce you all to the other author at Little Crab Press, Zhang Xianjing. So can you please tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Rebecca, for the lovely intro. Yeah, my name is Xianjing, but in Canada, everyone call me Xianjing Zen.
Mm.
Well, fair enough. So I came to Canada as an international student in 2012. Now I work with the University of Victoria in the Office of Global Engagement. Now I have a little 6-year-old daughter who goes to elementary school here, French immersion.
Oh
And
yeah, I forgot about
so my
that.
goal, that's my personal goal is to have a trilingual child. It's
Yay.
one of the reasons that we started this bilingual picture book. Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to tell everyone how you got inspired to do, because this actually is just the first book. We hope that we can do one on fruit and some other ideas. So do you want to tell people how you came up with the idea?
I remember when my daughter was about 1, 2 years old, I started reading picture books to her. And I noticed that she really liked rhythm pattern
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
And I was having challenge in finding good bilingual picture books for my child because I want her to keep the Mandarin root.
Hmm.
And it was hard to find a good one, especially in Victoria,
Hmm.
Canada. I think that's the biggest reason I started this nursery book. And so far, we have one finalized. Moving forward, we will work on the rest too, fruit and animals.
I wanted to tell people about our experience of writing this together. Where things started off was Xianjing had the sort of core beginnings of the poems for each of the veggies. It was already decided that it was going to be based off of the alphabet. And so Xianjing sent me her initial poems, and then I went through them and sort of figured out what areas I felt like we could make the English translations closer to what a native speaker would say. Or sometimes, in some cases, we felt like we had to completely change the veggie altogether because it just wasn't working out. So we had a really fun time. I remember many late nights on Zoom with each other, going over what the Chinese was saying, what the English was saying. And I'm really, really proud of the result because, on the one hand, when you do poetry or nursery rhymes, you have to have a little bit of artistic license because sometimes you kind of have to bend a rhyme to fit something or rearrange the grammar in a kind of a funny sounding way, but that's kind of okay when you're doing things for poetry or nursery rhymes. But what was really fun for both of us was the sort of back and forth that we got to have about agreeing, disagreeing, debating, convincing each other, or in some cases, learning completely new facts about certain veggies. So in some cases, I was teaching her about vegetables, and in other cases, she was teaching me about vegetables. In some cases, we knew of a vegetable, but we didn't know what it was called in English, or we didn't know what it was called in Chinese either, which was really interesting. So here's an example of a vegetable that we both learned a lot about when we were writing because Xianjing has some history with this vegetable and I had none. So I am going to tell you about that in English, and then Xianjing is going to jump in and tell you the same story in Chinese. So if you have a bilingual kid, you can show them this video and see if they understand what I'm saying and what Xianjing is saying. So now that yam beans are becoming more well known in North America, they're less commonly called yam beans and more commonly recognized by their Spanish name of jicama. We chose yam beans as our Y veggie because Xianjing used to eat them as a child. But the funny thing is that in her hometown, they were not called dou shugen. She actually had a different name for them. They were called gai from her dialect. So you'll find this veggie, like a lot of veggies, has many names depending on the region you are in where it is being talked about.
Yeah，就像刚才瑞贝卡说的，朱婷，Yeah，I should use your Chinese name.
对呀
这个蔬菜叫豆薯根，但是我从小到大都不知道它的中文名叫豆薯根，因为在我的家乡，方言叫它改，但是普通话我们家乡人我们叫它白地瓜，和豆薯根完全不一样。所以当朱婷跟我说这个蔬菜的时候，我根本不知道她在说的是什么蔬菜，直到
Yeah.
看到图片我才恍然大悟。
Do you remember any facts or anything that we talked about that was like a surprise to you that um, possibly was something that I taught you or something that we discovered together because of doing this project?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the veggie was from Wales, the history.
Right. The
Which one?
leek.
The
Yes.
leek, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
九葱, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you mentioned it was, the legend from Wales and good for the health wound. I never heard of it.
Yeah, that's a really good example. That's something where both of us learned about that vegetable in ways
Yeah.
that we had never expected. We ended up getting into so much detail about learning about the families of veggies. I just reread some of our like factoids and notes that we had made
Mm.
and just remembered that carrots are part of the parsnip and celery and
Yes.
parsley
So,
family.
yes.
Yeah.
That.
I mean, parsnip you would expect, but celery was a big shock.
Yeah.
One of the things that we tried to accomplish with this book, and some Chinese native speakers might read it and say, you failed. And some English speakers might read it and say, that poem's weird or whatever. But we tried to make them match each other in meaning in a way that other books don't do. So, for example, whatever is in the first line of the Chinese poem is almost identical meaning wise in the English first line, and so on as you
Mm-hmm.
go through all four lines. The rhyming pattern of a poem on a certain page, maybe for the Chinese, let's say it's A, B, A. We didn't get to make an English poem that's A, B, A every time as far as a
Mm-hmm.
rhyming pattern is concerned, but we were able to make both poems rhyme properly, 90% of the way, and also have them mean the same thing. So, what happens a lot with children's books and certainly poetry when they get translated, a lot of the times translations will just kind of, it almost feels like they give up. Like if you're bilingual and you're reading it, you can see really stark differences between the original meaning and
Yeah, the
the
meaning,
translation.
totally, the meaning is gone. It's
Mhm.
more poetic style.
Yeah.
Yeah, in each language.
Exactly. So we're the first to admit that some of the poems are stronger than others, but it doesn't really matter because it's a creative endeavor. And that's the kind of thing that you can incorporate into lessons with your kids. If you're showing them poetry, you can talk about the concept of artistic license. So it's very difficult to come up with a topic where you can get from A all the way through Z
Mm.
in even in English, because there may be very few options for a certain letter. So, for example, V, we tried Vidalia onion or some kind of V onion, and we tried to make a poem, it just was not working. So, we changed it to vegetable mustard. And that's kind of a cheat because people would usually call them mustard greens, but another word for them is vegetable mustard. And again, we needed a V word that we could actually succeed in writing a poem about. And so that was kind of our compromise. You might be wondering, though, how we handled the letter X. So, Xianjing, do you want to explain to them how we
Oh, yeah, yeah,
handled
yeah.
letter X?
Yeah, sure. So for X, we also kind of, well, not cheated, but we
Artistic license.
yes,
Yeah.
we actually got that from the Chinese name of the veggie, 小
Mhm.
白菜, but in English is bok choy, start with
Yes.
B. Well, the standard Mandarin 小白菜 start with X. That's how we came up with this cute poem. I don't remember if we thought of other veggies in English that start.
I think I wanted to go with 小白菜 because I've eaten it so much and I love it so much, maybe. It's kind
Oh,
of,
I love it. It's
and I mean,
um
look at these. Look at these little guys. Aren't they just look at the guy with the little mustache?
Each of them has different
Yeah.
basic.
And this one was a kind of a cool one because we were able to talk about what we just said in the poem. So the English goes, Baby bok choy is white and green. It looks like a skirt made out of leaves. You'll find many different names for it, I guarantee. But its English name definitely comes from Cantonese. So bok choy is from Cantonese.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know the English name until I came to Victoria, I think,
So
because
were
yeah,
you surprised that to find out that it was that English speaking people call it the Cantonese word?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And then
Oh,
then I learned the history of the Chinese immigration to Canada, right? And
right.
it makes sense because yeah, they were Cantonese speakers who came the first.
Yeah.
One thing I like to point out is when I read this book to my daughter, she loves the animation that Lisa made.
Oh, the illustrations?
Illustration,
Yes,
the pictures
yes.
kind of both combination, right, together.
Yeah. They're just so
They are
cute.
just so cute.
And there's a little sort of Easter egg in this book too, that has to do with each page and what's happening at the bottom of the page. So I don't want to reveal what that is. You have to buy the book to find out what happens from the beginning to the end of the book with that little extra drawing that Lisa added there. Do you want to share one of your favorite poems from the book? One of the ones
Yeah,
that was the most successful?
in my mind, huh?
Yeah.
And it's the cutest one, the most, I would say, smoothie fluent one in
Uh-huh.
my mind. I really like carrot.
Me too. 跟我一样.
Yeah, I think that's one of my top. Do you want to read the English one and I can read the Chinese one?
Sure.
Okay. 胡萝卜，胡萝卜，你在哪儿？你在泥土下生长。胡萝卜，胡萝卜，找到你了，穿着橙色的衬衫。
So that's carrot, carrot, where are you? You're growing under the dirt. Carrot, carrot, I found you wearing a bright orange shirt. I'm really proud of that one because it rhymes perfectly in Mandarin and it rhymes perfectly in English, and each line matches the each other perfectly in Chinese and in English, which is really, really hard to do. You'll see that we were successful at that a lot of the time. It was a little more rocky, some of the other poems, but again, poetic license is a good thing. And we just used our creativity to create something that was fun and entertaining and educational. One of the reasons why I started 小螃蟹教育出版社 is because I wanted to make Mandarin more accessible for native English speakers. And I wanted to make it easier for families who maybe have one parent who only speaks English and one parent who speaks Mandarin and English, most likely, to be able to share the Mandarin language with their child and not make the monolingual parent rely on the Mandarin speaking parent for all of the language education for their child and kind of leave themselves out of that part of the family language journey. And so I wanted to make Mandarin materials that are more accessible for people who are just starting out. And so one of the fun things about this book being bilingual the way that it is that the monolingual English speaking parent could read the English poems to their children sitting side by side with the Mandarin speaking parent who could be reading the characters. And then they can have a discussion, or the whole family can have a discussion about the similarities and differences, the words that do rhyme, the words that don't rhyme. There's so many different things that can spark conversation. And then if the monolingual English parent is trying to learn Mandarin, these are little, quick, bite sized, chewable pieces of pun intended, pun unintended, to give them a little taste of Mandarin. Either you can do one poem per night, one poem a day or whatever. And, it would take 10 minutes to sit down with your child and read just one and learn not just about language, but also about veggie facts too, which, as we said before, was super fun for both Xianjing and I because we learned so much about vegetables we did
Mm,
not realize that we didn't know until we wrote this book.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, I can't agree with you more. All the
It's important to if to have some kind of a structure, a system at home to keep
mm, keep
the
it going.
heritage language.
Definitely being
Hmm.
consistent. What I'm doing now with my daughter, we maintain 20 to 30 minutes reading every day for
Nice.
sure.
Yeah.
And I made a rough plan according to, the Lexile test, A to Z test.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this is a good one. Well, maybe for grade two, grade one, above grade one, grade two,
Hmm.
three. I think this is a very good resource to add to your book list for sure, to get it going. And I'm pretty sure the result will come. You will see the outcome, like Rebecca said, the seeds will become flowers.
越来越好.
Yeah. And also just give another example, based on, my daily work. I don't work with students directly, but I hear a lot of students, parents and professor. And we have very strong connection with some universities in mainland China and Hong Kong. And the kids want to go to do exchange, excellent program, right? But
Yeah.
they learn Mandarin from little. But when they really start doing this, they realize they feel so regretful that they didn't listen to their parents when they
Hmm.
were younger, or the parents were not pushing them
Hmm.
too hard. Anyway,
Yes.
so I'm pretty sure the outcome will come. You will see, and you will be so glad your children can be fluent in two languages or even more. It's
Hmm.
definitely good for the brain development. Yeah.
For the two of us as two Canadians who are trying to raise our children in multicultural Canada, it's really important to us that we are able to make bilingualism, multilingualism something that is more attainable, more easier to reach for more people because we both really strongly believe in the multicultural fabric of Canada. And we wanted to find ways to promote that in our own art and our own daily lives with our families and really demonstrate to our children that this is something that's important. Sharing culture is important, deepening understanding is important. And it was really funny to make this book. And not only did Xianjing teach me about China, and I taught her about Canada, but also we both together ended up learning about gardening and horticulture.
Oh.
And at the back, there are 3 recipes. For each recipe, we have it entirely in Mandarin, and then we also have the same recipe entirely in English. So you can actually try to make the snack or treat with your kids if you want to, and use either language, and then you have a translation in both directions. Another thing that we added to this book was the 7 language skills breakdown. So we have English and we have Chinese on the same point. So we talk about how the 7 language skills are employed in this book, how this book can benefit speaking skills, listening, reading, composing, grammar, vocabulary, and or pronunciation. One important thing to note is that this book comes with free audio. So we have the pronunciation tracks in Mandarin and English for all of the veggies.
Thank you, Rebecca. You can get our book from our littlecrabpress.ca website. And there are tons of different resources there. On top of this little veggie book, feel free to browse it and look at all the resources. 我用中文也说一遍，就是你可以到 www 点 littlecrabpress 网上，这本书在上面也有，还有其他各种各样的资源。如果你想让你的孩子双语从启蒙开始双语，阅读，这上面有很多好用的资源。谢谢。
Well, thank you all for listening, and we look forward to seeing your comments, getting your questions. If you want to ask us anything, you can email hello@littlecrabpress.ca. Any questions for Xianjing, any questions for me, or Lisa, who does our graphic design. And we look forward to announcing our next book as soon as it's ready.
Exactly. Until then, see you next time.
下次见，拜
再见。
拜。If